does your knee pop off to the side like this in these wider legged lunge positions, then you're not alone. And it's not because you're not flexible. It's a combination of strength, lack of strength, and moving patterns. And so in today's class, we're going to look at these lizard, Marichyasana A, and half happy baby variations and retrain our bodies to go into more pure hip flexion. And we're going to start lying on our backs. And you might need a strap. So we're going to warm up the hips. So does your knee tend to pop out to the side in positions like lizard? And it feels quite frustrating. It might not be because you're not flexible, but more a lack of strength, lack of coordination, and also pure hip joint structure anatomy. So in today's class, we're going to look at repatterning our bodies so we can go into more pure hip flexion, which might make some new postures approachable to us. We're going to start lying on our backs. And once you're on your back, you can bend your right knee in towards the chest, but we're not going to use our hands for now. We're going to use just the strength of the hip flexors to draw some circles. So see if you can bring the knee in quite close and towards the armpit, and then you can relax a little bit. Maybe 3 of these at your own pace. Noticing that the other leg also doesn't pop off too much, most to the other side. And probably if you don't use your hands, this movement is a little bit smaller. And then towards the end, if you like, now that you're a little bit warm, you can use your hands in towards the chest. And you probably notice knee in straight towards the chest feels a little bit tighter, or maybe there's lack of movement, as opposed to if you bring the knee in towards the armpit. So the leg goes around the body, and that's natural because that's how our hip socket is shaped. But we're just bringing awareness here into the different ways of flexing the hip. And then you can go to the other side, extending the right leg, left knee in towards the chest. And again, we'll start by using the strength of the hip. 3 circles. I'm noticing right away that the left leg is a little bit weaker in terms of hip flexion. Also 3 to the other side. See if you can bring it in close. Probably also notice your core working, which, the hip flexors and the core are all connected. 3 of those. And then you can bring in the knee, pure hip flexion, so the knee comes in towards the chest. But you can also play around with opening the knee a little bit more out towards the armpit, seeing if one thing feels a bit more smooth than the other. Good. Nice. And then we're going to go back to the first leg. At first, just using the strength of the body. And then we'll go into what's called half happy baby. So I'm going to bring the right hand from the inside of the thigh, and you can grab your ankle. Can grab the big toe, or you can grab the outer edge of the foot. And today, since we don't want the leg to go out to the side, we want this closeness between the thigh and the chest. And that might feel a little bit humbling. Might also be the case that, if you bring the leg out to the side, you can easily grab the foot, but if you bring it to the center, that the foot goes out of reach, in which case, of course, you can take a strap. Because today we want to make it more about finding new ways of moving, as opposed to just going into end range, using the muscles the body wants to use anyways. Good. So keeping it quite compact. And if you feel the leg goes out, then just bringing the leg back away from you a little bit so you can re-guide the knee to center. And then you can use your hands to bring the knee in. Staying there, hanging out, noticing. I'm pressing out through the leg, so the foot is not just kind of hanging or dead, but there's an activity. And then I actually feel my inner thighs working So it's actually more about strength for me than about flexibility. Great, and then we'll also do the other side, extending the right leg and then bending the left knee, bringing it as close as possible. And then left arm goes from the inside. You can grab the ankle, outer foot, or big toe. And then again, keeping the knee in relatively close. Also noticing if the standing leg is sort of going offline, because then we also have another different dimensions of movement, making sure the knee stays relatively close. And if that means you have to get a strap, then getting a strap so that you can actually feel this movement of more pure hip flexion. That means, whoops, I'm completely on the cable there. The knee coming in towards the chest, or just barely to the outside, as opposed to the leg going out to the side. So shin also perpendicular to the floor. And again, I feel my inner thighs working quite hard and bringing the leg in. All right, let's rock up and come into a tabletop position. We're going to create a bit of internal rotation through the legs. Since the problem, so to say, in these lizard positions when the leg goes out, so the leg automatically externally rotates. So we're gonna warm up the other way. So you can come into a regular tabletop, but then the knees come together and the feet apart. And then we'll inhale to lift through the heart. And as you exhale, you can round your spine and push your hips back. Almost like you're going into Virasana, hero's pose, but you're not fully going there. Inhale to lift through the heart. Exhale, rounding the spine. And this might be really awkward. We don't do so much internal rotation in yoga, although when they come up, they do come up and they cause a lot of issues. So this variation is dynamic. There's no need to fit a certain posture. You can just play with it. And if you want to sit in between the heels for a moment, you can. So this is internal rotation, inner thighs going down. A lot of us need a blanket or a block to sit on so that the knees don't feel compromised, or might also be at the tops of the thighs that start to talk to you. But for today, let's just take a simple twist. Inhale, reaching up. Exhale to twist the right side, just to give the spine a different movement. Good. And then inhale back to center. Exhale, twisting to the second side. Another breath in. And breath out. Inhale to center. And then we'll come back onto hands and knees. Take your blanket out if you were using it. Stepping the right foot to the outside of both hands. Good. You can come up onto blocks if you like. And we'll do nice and classic. Inhale, bending the knee forward. And as you exhale, moving back just to get a bit into the front of the hips. As we inhale, move the hip forward. And as we exhale, move back. Already here, feeling like the knee is moving out and it kind of stays out when you move back. See if you can bring the foot just barely to the outside of the hands. And you're sort of grazing the arm and grazing the blocks all the while. Another thing that can happen is that your hip starts to open, or your hip is in a different position. And then again, we're more in this abduction, external rotation. So we're staying close to the body. And then the next time you are forward, we're gonna stay there. And for a lot of us already here, if you feel like your leg is moving out, maybe coming back even more, maybe coming up onto the blocks even more. So finding a position where your legs can actually be in this closed position might be very humbling, but that's perfectly fine. And as opposed to moving forward and out, I feel more like moving back and remembering this internal rotation. At the same time, my belly button starts to pull in, and maybe that's what starts to fold you further forward. And quite often we go into these lizard variations with the forearms. I'm not there.
on this side especially, maybe on blocks. But I'm working quite a lot on bringing the knee in. Let's come into a position or a range that feels manageable. I'm hogging the arm in, and then we'll let the knee fall out. So I'm flexing the foot. Inhale, knee opens out to the side. And as I exhale, I squeeze the upper arm into the thigh into the arm. Inhale, I'm letting it open. And as I exhale, I squeeze my upper arm. So there's a lot of inner thigh strength. And I'm also allowing my lower back to round. Another thing that tends to happen when we go this way is we're kind of arching. And so we need to coordinate this compactness as well as sense of rounding through the upper back, lower back. Okay, let's go to the other side. We're going to swing the right leg back, and then we'll step the left foot just to the outside of the hands. And this is the side that's a little less cooperative for me, so I'm going to come up onto blocks right away. And we'll start by moving the hips forward as we inhale, and as we exhale, we're going to move the hips back, and then just starting to feel into this side. Right away, if the knee wants to fall up, staying heavy through the inner line of the left foot. Also keeping a sense of left hip back, right hip forward. So we're square through the hips. Obviously, there's other ways of moving, and they're completely valid. We're just trying to find ways of moving that your body tries to avoid. And maybe those movements that your body tries to avoid actually hold a lot of wisdom. So next time your front knee is bent, we're going to stay there. And if you feel this happening, maybe your stance needs to be a little bit smaller as well. So as opposed to like a big lizard lunge, maybe it's like knee on top of ankle, hip on top of knee, kind of a more short stance, hogging the knee in, and then maybe left hip back, right hip forward, and then starting to soften. Belly button pulls in. Maybe you come flat onto your hands. I'm actually working quite hard on hogging this in, and I'm softening from the belly button in towards the spine. Maybe this happens today. Doesn't. Maybe you're further down, not a problem. Good. And then I'm gonna come up a little bit, and we're gonna play with this knee out to the side and then knee back in. I'm gonna make my stance just a little bit bigger because it's gonna feel better. I'm keeping my foot quite stable, so I'm not sickling on the foot. I'm reaching out through the big toe, but the knee opens out. Inhale. And as I exhale, I bring the knee back in. So allowing your body to understand the difference, and also training the muscles that help you actively decide which type of movement you want to go into, as opposed to being kind of a slave of the habits that your body has. Good. And the inner thigh feels nice and toasty. I'm going to swing the leg back. Let's take it into a downward facing dog. Hips up and back. Good. Allowing the head to hang. We're not focusing on shoulders today, but just for a moment, making everything nice and long. If you want to move it here, go ahead. And then we'll walk the feet forward into a forward fold. I'm going to go roughly into the center of the mat. Let's keep feet hip width distance and just allow yourself to fold. Good. And so since we're working on hip flexion, thinking about moving the thigh bones into the body. Good. Belly button pulled in and rounding, broadening through the lower back. Inhale, halfway lift. And exhale, maybe folding a little bit deeper. And also maybe you're the kind of person who rolls onto the other edges of the feet, so staying heavy through your inner thighs even in this movements. Now let's bend the knees and come into a squat. I'm going to turn towards the camera. Take the blocks with me. So quite often we do malasana with the toes turned out, which can be quite comfortable for a lot of us. But today we're going to go feet hip width a little bit wider and parallel. If your heels are lifted, not a problem. You can always place a blanket underneath the heels. Maybe you need even more. But it's not so much about the ankle flexion today. It's about our ability to flex while the knees stay in. So now I'm in a position we did lizard, right side, left side, and now I'm kind of in a both-sided lizard. And of course, I need to open my knees a little bit to let my upper body come through. Also depends on the width of your upper body. But as opposed to letting the knees hang out, I'm gonna squeeze them into my armpits. And also walk your fingertips forward, every breath in, lengthening. And as you exhale, belly button softens back. Good. And you can just hang out here with your blanket underneath the heels. Again, the hip flexion, the ankle flexion doesn't really matter. We want to stay kind of compact, and you can even squeeze the legs into the armpits to keep that sense of closeness. Good, and then inhale. Let's sit down and extend the legs out forward. We're playing around with some variations of Marichyasana A. So it's kind of like a lizard, but this time we're sitting down. I'm going to need a blanket underneath my hips. If you need two, not a problem. I'm going to sit up. And I'm going to start on the right side. So I'm going to bend my right knee. And in the Iyengar tradition, the foot is really to the inside of the thigh. This is really hard because then everything's super compact. Of course, you need to make room for the arm to come through, but then you need to hug it in. Quite often in the Ashtanga tradition, the foot is right in front of the sits bone, which gives you a bit more space. And then I've studied with teachers that allow especially beginners to open the leg out towards the side and back. And if you notice, this is basically the leg position that happens to us automatically in lizard, if you think about the front foot. So this was kind of tricky if we think of this leg going back. But if we let the leg move out and out to the side, this is the lizard variation that comes a little bit more easily to us. So there's no pure right or wrong way to do it. It's just a negotiation with your body. What is possible? Where can you get a sense of folding? Where does it just feel so stuck that you can't get anything out of the posture? So today I'm gonna go heel right in front of the sit bone. You can, of course, play around with opening this leg up. And then for today, I'm gonna lean over towards the left side. So I actually have more room. Inhale, reaching the right arm up. And then exhale. As opposed to letting the leg move out, I'm gonna stay heavy, but I feel like my upper body starts to move beyond the thigh. Inhale, reaching up. And then exhale. My teacher also often likes to make the people kind of come up onto their sits, come off of their sits bones, like you're standing on the right foot, like a pistol squat. If you think of this as a pistol squat. Good. And then you can stay here and think of rounding. If you're really close to the wall, it can also be helpful is that you push off of the wall. And again, as opposed to the knee flopping out, you're hugging it in. Today we're going to keep it here. And let's bring back the twist. So you can open the left arm out to the side. Right. And sometimes twisting in positions can help us to find different pathways. And actually, because I press the elbow into the thigh to twist, I need to push back even more. So I'm training the inner thighs to stay in this composition. Good. And then slowly coming back. Whew, other side. Right leg extends, left knee bends. Again, I'm going to keep the heel right in front of the sit bone. You might decide differently. I'm going to shift the weight out to the side. Inhale, reaching the left arm up. And as I exhale, I lean forward. Again, knee doesn't pop out to the side. I'm staying heavy through the inner edge. If it was helpful coming off of the sit bones to really feel that weight shifting into the front leg, good, then you can do that. Next time you're forward, you can stay there. In this pose, the left sit bone will come up. That's not a problem. Later, when you bind, etc., you can think about grounding through the sits bone again. Even here, as much as I'm reaching forward and I want my upper body to kind of bypass the thigh, if I just let it go, I fall onto the right foot. So there's a counterbalance and a sense of weighting, anchoring through the left sit bone, which makes it harder. Good. And then you can bring the left hand to the inside. And for me to twist, I need to press the arm into the thigh, and the thigh needs to press back so I can twist. Good. Little shoulder blades gliding down. Inhale. Exhale, pressing thigh into arm, arm into thigh, which might make me twist a little bit deeper. Last breath, growing through the crown of the head. Exhale, twist. Good, coming back to center, extending both legs. And then we'll come onto our backs and do full happy baby, which is the squat on our back. So maybe you're holding onto your ankles. You can also just hold on to the backs of the thighs, big toes, outer edges of the feet. And again, as opposed to allowing the knees to flop out, seeing if you can keep the happy baby a little bit more compact, which is a tricky pose for me. That's why I'm doing these tutorials for myself. And especially the left leg kind of wants to jut out. It's also the side where the hip flexor is just a little bit weaker. Good. Same time, allowing my sits bone or tailbone to glide down, belly button in, shoulder blades onto the back. Good, and then you can move into a little shavasana for yourself. I'm going to close our practice or our video for now. Take another deep breath in, and I breath out. And then just allowing yourself to soften through the inner thighs, the groins, the hips nice and heavy. Just allowing your body to learn this new coordination. Sometimes when we learn new ways of moving, the ego has to take a little hike. Because the feel good or the achievements that you've made so far kind of have to become less visible. And that's really where the practice lies. And for today, we're going to rebend the knees, place the feet. Very easy windshield wiper side to side. And then we're going to roll up through the side to sitting. Good. And I thank you for sharing this little practice. If you like this kind of content, let me know. You can request certain videos as well as like and subscribe. And I hope to see you soon. Thank you.